The UN zooms in on our human rights record. Civil society groups submit their reports.
I think there's a huge level of empowerment that will go through their being.
The groups point to issues like poor housing for migrant workers, the perceived discrimination of homosexuals, detention without trial under the Internal Security Act, and problems faced by disadvantaged groups like the disabled and elderly.
Civil society groups in Singapore have submitted reports on the country's human rights track record ahead of a United Nations deadline tomorrow. Now, the move is part of a mandatory review of all UN member states. This is the first time that Singapore's human rights record is under scrutiny by the United Nations.
At least 8 civil society groups in Singapore have put forward their views on the country's human rights track record. They represent diverse groups from migrant workers to women's groups. Collectively, the groups have also submitted a joint proposal collated by MARUAH, the Singapore Working Group for an ASEAN Human Rights Mechanism. Their message that economic growth does not necessarily equate to quality of life. The groups point to issues like poor housing for migrant workers, the perceived discrimination of homosexuals, detention without trial under the Internal Security Act, and problems faced by disadvantaged groups like the disabled and elderly.
The lay person may not totally understand all of it so clearly, but I think the more you talk about it, and for example, we talk to the elderly and say that actually, it is your right to earn this kind of wages for the kind of work you do. I think there's a huge level of empowerment that will go through their being as compared to thinking that I should be, it's almost like I should be happy with stuff that people are giving me.
Singapore will submit its report to the UN by February. Singapore's Foreign Affairs Ministry said it has consulted stakeholders, including some local civil society groups. It added that they are welcome to submit their own reports to the UN. Civil society groups acknowledge that it will be a long-drawn process, but they hope that this report will get Singaporeans thinking and help to improve the quality of life here. As part of the process, civil society groups can attend the UN meeting in May to observe Singapore presenting its report. Now, in September, it can speak and make representations when the United Nations adopts the final outcome document. Now, the next review will be done in 4 years.